Hi everyone. This is my session about before the breach, how threat modeling enhances cloud resilience, strengthening security posture through proactive risk assessment. I'm Kavitha, Bangalore. I work as a cybersecurity analyst in the applications and cloud security team at Cleveland Clinic. And this is my agenda for today. Most of the companies nowadays are moving their applications to the cloud, and because of this, there is an increase in the amount of attack surface that is getting exposed. So it is very much important to put in proactive security measures to ensure that the systems are protected. Threat modeling is a critical process which is often overlooked by organizations, and it is very important for strengthening the cloud resilience. So because this helps in identifying the vulnerabilities ahead of time and putting in proper security controls in place. So in this talk, I'm emphasizing about the importance of cloud threat modeling and how to, mainly in the DevSecOps process by making use of various industry standard frameworks like the MITRE cloud attack framework or using the STRIDE framework, and also ensuring that all your systems are compliant to the various standards in the industry like the GDPR or the PCI DSS or things like that. And then also by shifting the security left, this enhances the security framework in your organization, and will help prevent breaches much ahead by taking precautions much ahead. So let us understand what is the meaning of cloud threat modeling and what is cloud resilience. So cloud threat modeling is it's a systematic or a standardized approach designed to uncover, evaluate, and rank potential security vulnerabilities and dangers which are unique to the cloud-based systems and infrastructure. And cloud resilience is the ability of the cloud-based systems to anticipate, withstand, adapt to, and recover from any disruptions which could be caused to their infrastructure or to any misconfigurations that could have happened, the threats and dependent services. These are the current cloud threats landscape. These are some of the points that have been given by the top threats that have been identified by the Cloud Security Alliance, the CSA, and many of the other organizations which are also in the cloud security space also give something of a similar sort. And going quickly into what exactly happens with, we have all heard about cloud misconfigurations. I mean, it is the topmost things that comes to our mind when we think of cloud security. So cloud is something that involves a lot of configurations that has to be done. Doing a misconfiguration is not something that we cannot rule out. And inadequate change control. So configurations are changed, services could be updated, there could be things going on. If a proper change control process is not in place, that is a big concern to any organization. And identity and access management. If we have heard a lot about IAM breaches because of somebody not having set up a proper MFA, proper roles are not being configured, giving over access or under access, privileged access, and various things that are there in the IAM space. If these are not managed properly, it's a big threat to the organization too. The next thing is the insecure interfaces and APIs. Cloud systems have to interact with the main way they can communicate with other systems is through APIs. So if these APIs are not properly secured, if there is no proper encryption, this could lead to a very big unauthorized accesses, and it's a threat to the cloud. Then inadequate implementation of cloud security strategy. So applications have to be designed with proper architecture principles, and if these are not done, then the implementation, whatever implementation you do, if you don't have a well-defined architecture, it's going to be a threat to that's another big threat to the cloud security. Then insecure third-party resources. Our cloud applications are definitely interacting with other third-party resources. I was talking about APIs. So they're using APIs to interact with other resources which are external to your organization. If proper controls are not put in place, that is another risk. Then insecure software development. Proper DevSecOps processes are not in place. This is also a big threat. Then accidental cloud disclosure. We have been hearing a lot about S3 buckets being exposed. So if things, this also leads to the same point, which was misconfiguration, which we talked about earlier. So the same thing happens here too. Then system vulnerabilities. If patching has not been done, zero-day threats, there could be this sort of things which have to be taken care of. The limited cloud visibility and observability. If cloud systems after implementation, if they're not monitored, logged, and if the logs are not checked time and again, then there is a chance of threats developing and which could go unnoticed. Then advanced persistent threats and ransomware. So some of these APTs, what we call as, this could be sponsored by bigger threat actors. So this is something that by having proper processes and procedures in our cloud design processes, in having controls in place, that is going to ensure that whatever these things that have been listed by the by CSA, we can mitigate these and we can take care of them earlier on by using proper processes. So one such process is the threat modeling process. So this is a picture that I've taken from Adam Shostak's GitHub. I like this particular diagram because it in a very simple way, it captures everything that is required for a cloud threat modeling. As you can see, the cloud threat modeling processes will involve the three main things, that is the identify the assets, define security requirements, and then create a threat model. So identify your assets. You should know everything about your cloud. Know thy cloud is it's like a mantra that should be kept in mind. You should know what are the data stores, what are the services, where is user data being stored, and then you have to define the security requirements. Each organization will have its own use case, so it's different policies has to be defined, compliance requirements, all this has to be documented and it has to be defined. And then create a threat model, identify threats and vulnerabilities, and also analyze the threats and vulnerabilities. And once you have all this in place, then you can develop your security strategies and implement controls. And finally, after you have implemented your cloud system, there is definitely a need for having a proper monitoring and change control and review processes. So I really like this diagram and I thought it would be a good thing to share. There are many tools which are available in the market for doing threat modeling, and there are free tools like the Microsoft Threat Modeling Tool and the OWASP Threat Dragon. The Microsoft Threat Modeling Tool, it identifies the threats based on a model called as the STRIDE model, and the OWASP Threat Dragon, which is available both as a desktop and a web version, it identifies the threats by doing a visual identification of those and identifying the risks associated with that. Later on, I'll be doing a case study about that. And then there are commercial tools, which is like Threat Modeler. Then there is Security Compass, which has got SD elements, and IRIS Risk. These tools, the advantage of these commercial tools is they are more, they provide more automation. We can do much better compliance tracking, risk assessment, and they have a much better automation process in general. They're all using the different frameworks which have been defined in the industry. So any of these tools, depending on your use case and depending on the what you can use, what is needed for your organization, based on that you can use these cloud threat modeling tools. So as I was talking about the STRIDE framework for the Microsoft threat modeling tool, the STRIDE framework is something which defines the threats based on 6 factors, which is the spoofing, tampering, repudiation, information disclosure, denial of service, and the elevation of privilege. The other models, I have more on the next slide, but these are the 3 which the DREAD model is one more model, and PASTA is one more model. The DREAD model and the PASTA model are more risk analysis kind of frameworks, and the PASTA model especially, it does an interaction between the business impact analysis and the threat intelligence, so more towards the compliance and regulation kind of framework. This slide also shows about the cloud matrix of the MITRE ATT&CK cloud matrix, which is a map-based. This is a map-based kind of framework where if you recognize something, for example, like for a website, this could be something like somebody is trying to spoof into a website or something. So when you go into this framework and you select that particular thing, that gives a next set of options, and then you can actually drill down to many other threats that could be associated with that particular thing that you're thinking, that particular threat which you're thinking about. Then there is the CCM, which is the Cloud Controls Matrix, which is given by the CSA. They give a set of a list of, in an Excel file, they give a list of controls which you can apply to your cloud framework and all the threats which are associated with that. They also have something called as the CAIQ, which is like a questionnaire where you can go and check whether your cloud system has implemented all these, the different best practices that they've given there. And now with AI coming into the market, there is all these tools, even the commercial, mainly the commercial tools, they're actually implementing these AI processes like Iris Risk, which I was mentioning before. They have implemented AI into their threat modeling processes. So and more as AI is going to be implemented into these tools, it's going to make our job of doing threat modeling for whether it's the cloud or general security threat modeling much more effective. Then this is a case study which I was trying to particular scenario for e-banking website, and something that I saw online that I was trying to put into OWASP Threat Dragon. So here are some screenshots. So when we go to the OWASP Threat Dragon, when we download and install this and start the application, and the top right has got the different elements that you have to the description. For example, you have to put in the description, select what type of model that you want to generate. Like here I selected the STRIDE model, and then once you do that and you say you want to generate it, it gives you this screen on the left bottom which where you can select different flow elements and put them, create the diagram. And then on the rightmost bottom, you can see how different elements of the diagram can be defined. Yeah, diagrams can be defined by any of the tools like Visio or any such tool. Block diagrams could be created. But then if you have to I would call this more like a data flow diagram. So, but if you want to put in, the advantage of these threat modeling tools is you can start putting in threats into whatever you want to. For example, here it is, I wanted to do it for a website dev. What are the threats that could come on the website? So that could be like user impersonation, which is spoofing. Somebody trying to impersonate a particular user, that is called spoofing, and that could be a threat to the website. And then there could be HTTP request manipulation, and then there could be HTTP response manipulation. So there are different scenarios like this which you can put into the tool. And you can also select the severity of that particular thing. It could be a high, it could be a low, or a medium. And initially you can put a description for the tool. Initially you cannot put in a mitigation because you are creating the threat model. Later on, when you have done the discussion with the teams and other things, you can come and put in the mitigation for this particular, for this threat, what is the mitigation kind of thing. And then finally, this is how the diagram looks like. The red lines all indicate where the threat exists for this, for the different interactions that are there in this system that's being designed. And finally, when you have created this, you can export, you can save this diagram in, this is for OWASP Threat Dragon. So you can save this diagram and export it to a PDF file and then send it across to all the different teams you're interacting with, your different stakeholders. Since you're part of the security team, you would be sending it out to the operational cloud operations team, the cloud network team, and different teams, so that you get the opinion of different stakeholders for your application. Then integrating the threat modeling into your DevSecOps process. Like as I was mentioning in the initial thing, that it's very much needed to integrate threat modeling into the DevSecOps process. Usually when we start off a project, we usually do a threat modeling during the planning phase. So before we code the application, DevSecOps process is an iterative process. It's not something where you do it end to end and you say, okay, I'm done with it. No, it is something that it's an iterative process and it keeps always flowing. So when you're planning the project, the application initially, you would have done a threat modeling, and what you would have used, like the tools that we use, the frameworks that I was explaining before. You would have done all those things when you do the initial planning. But then once you have done this, and the project, the project has been completed, it's been tested, it has been deployed, and now it's operational. Let us say a change request comes in, and there is some new service that has to be added to the application. In such a case, you have to again do a threat modeling. And so it's not going to be easy, because you'll have to revisit everything. That's when all these tools come into the picture, and they make your process very, very easy to do. So GitHub Actions, Jenkins, already they have threat modeling checks. You can run automated threat modeling checks inside these frameworks. And then you have DevSecOps tools, like all the tools which I was also mentioning, some of the tools I was mentioning, like OWASP, ThreatDragon, then there is PyTM, ThreatSpec, and there's the Microsoft threat modeling tool. So these are all GUI-based tools, so it makes your job very much easier to do a threat modeling. Of course, with anything that we do, there is always going to be opportunities and challenges. So some of the opportunities that we see with cloud threat modeling is quickly we can identify the threats, which will help us to put in security controls in place and to mitigate the risk. Then make informed security investments and decisions. Then adhere to regulatory requirements for anything for that matter, HIPAA or the GDPR or the PCI DSS. Then proactive risk identification and mitigation. And the topic of my talk was ensuring that we get a good cloud resilience by doing a cloud threat modeling. So definitely it's going to enhance the cloud resilience, and which ultimately, when you do all these good practices and put all these good processes in place, it's going to improve the security posture. And then, of course, on the other side, on the flip side, we always have challenges. Lack of security expertise. It is not necessary that all the people on the stakeholders in the teams that we are working with will have all the necessary expertise for understanding what are the threats. So when we do the initial modeling, when we do a threat modeling, it's an iterative process. It cannot be done at the first go. It has to be revisited multiple times to come up with a very robust threat model. Then complex cloud architectures. Most of the cloud systems that are implemented are interacting with external systems, the third-party systems. Then there is API interactions going on. There is hybrid clouds. There is multi-cloud. There is a lot of things that are cloud architectures that are there. So that is also a big challenge. And then time constraints. Because of the speed at which projects have to be implemented, or the time to market kind of thing that exists in the business, the time is a big constraint, because sometimes people may not even do, teams may not even do cloud threat modeling, which is a risk. There is something called as threat modeling process saturation. Sometimes organizations, they reach a limit of how much threat modeling process they can do because of the evolving threats, keeping up to speed with what is coming up, and it just gets overwhelming. So that's when a saturation point is reached. That's also a challenge. Then unrecognized entry points and boundaries. When you design the system initially, you may not know everything that it's going to interact with. But if you don't come back and revisit the cloud threat modeling, that would be a concern. So it is very much necessary to always have an iterative process for cloud threat modeling. So that's pretty much my talk about the importance of cloud threat modeling. So just like any system that is there, the architecture is the blueprint for a good system that has to be developed. Similarly, cloud threat modeling is the blueprint for cloud resilience. So identify, mitigate, and stay resilient. Some more taglines that I have for this process, and then feel free to reach out to me about to discuss about anything about cloud or application security. That's my LinkedIn. Thanks for watching.